Welcome to episode 2 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Charlie X.
In this week's episode, an adolescent passenger's unusual upbringing and need for acceptance leads to the crew losing control of the Enterprise. With another starship destroyed and the fate of an entire colony on the line, Kirk and his senior staff attempt to regain the upper hand before time runs out.
There are things you can do with a lady, Charlie, that there's no right way to hit a woman.
Good evening, Ian. Tell me, what are the things that you can do with a woman, or what shouldn't you do?
You certainly shouldn't be striking any of them.
Good progressive attitude from Kirk there.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Plenty of folks should be learning it, even now.
How are things?
Not too bad, Gerry. I understand you've remembered more things about Star Trek since we last spoke.
A couple of things, yes. I should have mentioned last week. I don't know how remiss of me not to bring them up. Of course, I am familiar with the character Scotty.
Your fellow Scot.
Apparently. So this is something. My understanding is that he's got a terrible accent, a terrible fake Scottish accent, up there with Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent. Now, I may be wrong.
Well, you heard him briefly in the first episode. Did it stand out to you?
I didn't even notice it was meant to be a Scottish accent.
Oh, we'll find out when we get back round to him in due course.
And a couple of other things. The Vulcan, the death grip or the nerve pinch, or...
It's the nerve pinch, because if it was a death grip, he would be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. And also the hand sign, the four fingers spread 2 by 2.
Yeah. Okay, well that's exciting for us all to know that these things have seeped into even your consciousness as you actively try to avoid them.
Lots of things have seeped in.
The less said about that, the better.
What do we have this week?
Well, we should remind everybody that we are watching the Netflix versions of these shows, and we're watching them in air date order, in case you're wondering what to swat up on for future episodes. This was the 8th show to be produced, but the 2nd to be aired, so we're running in with Charlie X today.
That title, I must admit, annoyed me.
It annoyed you?
Yes.
Because we know his surname?
Yeah, exactly that. I don't understand why they insist on... He's never referred to as Charlie X in the episode, and we're immediately told his name is Charlie Evans.
Yeah. X just stands for a mystery, I think, so there's a mystery about Charlie.
No, the general usage would be you put an X when you don't know the surname. And it would have been easy in this episode to do that. So they've picked up some young lad from another planet, and he only knows his name's Charlie. He was brought up on his own, so they call him Charlie X. But no, his name's Charlie Evans. Charlie E is what this should be called.
It may not be quite so catchy.
X's are more catchy than E's, for sure.
They're cooler.
Definitely.
And it's a show that's always been cool.
The titular Charlie X, or the sort of titular Charlie X, certainly wasn't cool. He went from an oddball to a weirdo to a stalker to a psycho within the space of 50 minutes.
That's just normal adolescent behaviour, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, probably. Although it was a good performance, I thought, from the young man.
Yeah.
Not that young, actually.
Working his way through plenty of makeup.
Yeah, his head annoyed me a little bit.
His eye rolls a little. I think someone's done a cut-up on YouTube of all the times that he rolls his eyes back in his head from this episode. It's worth 2 minutes of your time.
Yeah. Not just that, but I think he looked old. I mean, obviously the actor was older than the 17-year-old that was playing.
He was only a bit older, though. He's in his 20s.
Yes, 25 or so. However, I don't know, he's one of these people who has an older looking face or something about it. He looks like a 50-year-old man in a 25-year-old's body.
How unfortunate for him. Again,
maybe it was just the HD version we're watching it on now. Maybe it didn't do him any justice or any favours.
Well, shall we get to the episode then?
Why not?
Crack on.
Captain's log. I'm assuming that you've noticed it this week.
No, I didn't.
1533.6.
That's good. You keep track of these. Keep updating us.
I will do.
Kirk is noting in this log that the Enterprise has rendezvoused with the Antares, and I think we see the two ships on the exterior shot.
We do. Before we find out that its captain and first officer are going to be beaming over with an unusual passenger.
So as this is being said, we actually see Kirk enter the transporter room.
We do. Is it a transporter or the transportation room?
Transporter.
Okay. I'm going to change my notes.
Okay. He's wearing a different outfit from the previous episode.
Yeah, tell me about that. Is that significant?
I don't think so. I think these are fatigues. So he's on duty technically, but he's maybe a bit less...
Smart casual.
Yeah.
In any case, the three of them beam down with the help of Chief and the Enterprise.
Well, it's not really down. They're not going to a planet. They beam over.
Okay.
It's only down if you're going to...
Sure.
Yeah.
Explain the technology. Does each ship have to explicitly allow beaming to...
Well, yeah, I think you'll find if the shields are up, you can't teleport through them or transport through them. But you don't need to have a transporter at both ends because obviously they can go down to a planet and back. But I would think the transport's initiated from one end. So in this case, it's the Enterprise's transporter chief's been told to beam them over, so he's controlling that.
Yeah, but the receiving vessel would need to give permission. But
well, not necessarily give permission, but they would need to not have their shields up.
I'm guessing that in the future there are episodes where baddies get themselves onto the ship without permission.
Well, the transporters are a source of endless stories.
Always getting hacked.
Not always getting hacked, but sometimes accidents happen.
Okay.
The Antares crew, you'll notice, are wearing slightly different uniforms again. We'll see more of them next week because they're the ones from the pilot shows. The
other crew have a weird looking castaway with them who is introduced.
Yeah, it's Charlie Evans, as you were so upset about earlier.
Yeah, he's got an old man face and he is wearing a strange fur coat, or a strange coat with fur shoulder pads.
Very fashionable, I thought.
Is it a cold planet that he came from, do you think?
It's hard to say, actually. We don't think we get any information about the planet, do we? We get told there's a smallly limited amount of vegetation, so I guess maybe it might be hot.
Mm. Charlie is clearly an oddball, and this is noted by all when Kirk tries to shake his hand, and it's then further demonstrated when he rolls back his pupils out of sight of the others.
Yeah, and they suddenly change what they're saying and start talking over each other about how much they like Charlie and what a great member of the team he was.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a technical fault in the Netflix version, but I'm assuming
it's still. This is, I think, as we'll come to discover, Charlie's using his powers here to stop them from warning Kirk about him.
They talk up Charlie's learning that he achieved on the planet and what he did whilst alone there, after everyone was apparently killed.
Yeah, a 3-year-old lone survivor of an accident.
Yeah, I'd be suspicious straight away.
It seems a little bit unusual, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Like everyone was killed apart from him. I would think, well, you must be the killer then.
Well, the ship crashed. It's not like they were all individually killed.
In any case, he interrupts the departing crewman by asking about the size of the Enterprise. And when Kirk tells him it's 428 in size, this seems to please him.
Is there anything we can do for you, Captain? Medical supplies, provisions?
Hundreds. All human like me. That's exciting. Is that the right word?
That's perfect. It's the exact word.
You see, we'd like to keep Charlie with us. But with his closest living relatives in Colony 5 and your vessel going that way, why?
I'd like to see your ship now. All of it. The people and everything.
You keep interrupting, Mr. Evans. That's considered wrong.
I'm sorry.
We have a large supply of entertainment tapes, gentlemen.
No, we've a tight schedule to make, Captain. Just 20 of us. We're making out fine.
This must be a space first. A transport ship that doesn't need anything?
Nothing.
Not even sorry and brandy?
We're fine, thank you. Pleasant journey, Captain.
Thank you. Gentlemen, Rand, this is Charles Evans. Show him to his quarters and drop his records off at Dr. McCoy's office, if you will.
Yes, sir. Come with me, please.
Are you a girl? Is that a girl?
That's a girl.
Okay, I have 3 things.
Just 3?
For the moment.
Okay.
Is she a girl? Yeah, 20 years ago, I think. She's nearly 40. What are these entertainment tapes that are lying around?
No, I think it'll be music,
Okay,
probably.
fair enough. Just music? No visuals?
Well, there's some dispute about whether there was holographic technology at this time of history or the future.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be holographic, or it could be a video. Who knows?
And the third thing, I can't remember the third thing. Oh yeah, Colony 5. Tell me about the colonies.
It'll be a human settlement that's not on Earth, so it'll be called a
Yeah,
colony.
well, I know what a colony is. Generally,
There's nothing specific about this particular colony.
Okay,
It's just he has living relatives that are there.
but it mentioned Colony 5, so do we know in the universe, is there
No,
how many colonies there
No.
are? No.
never. I don't think we'll ever find out exactly how many colonies. Well, maybe it's mentioned somewhere, but I think they use a number that's not one to make it say more interesting.
Okay.
Did you notice there's a second time in 2 episodes I mentioned for Sorry and Brandy there? Kirk offered them some.
He did, yes.
Yeah.
We have the credits, followed by another log. What number?
Just slightly higher than the previous log, 0.6 or something.
1533.7.
Oh, I was close.
So tell me about the voiceover here.
So it's just Kirk doing a quick recap for everyone that missed the bit before the credits. They've got Charlie on board for transport to Colony 5. He's the sole survivor of a crash that occurred 14 years ago when he was 3.
Yeah.
Somehow he has lived and grown healthy and intelligent.
When you were 3, do you think you could have lived and survived after a crash in a colony?
I don't know. It would depend.
To be honest, I don't think I could survive just now on my own. Never mind at 3.
At 3 years old. Well, if you had all the corpses of your crewmates to eat, though, you'd probably be okay.
No doubt. We're down in the dispensary,
Sick bay.
and whilst undergoing a physical, Charlie tells McCoy that he ate plants when they ran out of food and learned to speak from learning tape, so he can't write then, I assume.
No, because they will be able to. There'll be visual interaction in the ship as well as audio.
You think?
Tapes might not mean the audio tapes. This is the future.
Suppose.
Also, in the present day, we have tapes that aren't just audio.
True, but when you say you learn to speak from them, I don't know. Maybe.
You could be watching. A lot of people nowadays learn foreign languages watching
Movies.
TV shows from other countries.
Yeah, that's true. McCoy gives Charlie some good news. He is in fine condition, although he appears not to understand what being sound of wind and limb means.
Yeah, I don't think he picked up on this slang. It maybe wasn't on the tapes.
Tapes, yeah. So this would have been tapes from where?
The ship he was on that crashed, that killed everybody.
Yeah, but tapes of from what period? So tapes that were contemporary to that
Yes,
ship?
that's 15 years earlier, yeah.
Okay. He acts strange again when asking after Kirk and telling McCoy that most people don't like him, even though he's trying to be liked. He really is a creepy wee guy.
Yeah, he's got some sort of desperation to be accepted, I think, but I don't know if that's because he's just so overwhelmed by being around people for a change.
I mean, these characteristics you see in serial killer movies. I mean, this is the beginning of it, or characters who go into become psychos and abuse their partners, and fatal attraction type stuff.
Sure,
He's a maniac.
He has some of those traits.
He has all of those traits. Anyhow, in the corridor, we see him shadowing some general crewman before following after Yeoman Rand to give her a little present.
Yeah, he's got her favourite perfume.
How does he know what her favourite perfume is?
That's a good question.
Because he's been creeping on her already, straight away, in there with the creep, asking people what does she like.
Yeah, it could be as easy as he's asked somebody, or maybe I don't think he's got mind reading powers or anything like that.
And where does he get the perfume from?
He just makes it appear.
Okay.
He can do that.
You see, I don't trust this guy at all. I mean, we're lucky this is only a family entertainment show, because I can see how sinister this could be easily become.
The other question about the perfume is, so someone tells him the name. How do you know what it smells like? Is it the same?
His abilities aren't really fleshed out in this episode, I would say.
They're not nailed down to a level of specificity that you can be confident that you're aware of everything.
A little bit like last week, where we weren't quite sure how
there's a
the
little
monster
bit of
works.
Vagueness, yeah.
Anyway, she agrees for some reason to meet with him later when she's off duty.
He's happy about this.
Yeah, he skips away before doing what?
Well, he mimics something he'd seen at the start of the scene between two of the crewmen working in the the ship.
Yeah, why are these crewmen smacking each other on the behind, on the
I
bottom?
think back in the 1960s, this was the done thing to do.
You think, yeah?
I have no idea. Possibly it was. I've never encountered anyone doing that.
No, if you walk by me today and give me a little smack in the bottom.
You would go immediately to all our colleagues and tell them, you'll never believe what he's just done.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Yeah, so he's witnessed a couple of guys smack each other around the nether regions,
Well, more the posterior.
posterior nether regions, and decides to try this on with Rand.
Yeah, a little bit of a backhander there.
Yeah, but he walks off, so she doesn't get a chance at that point to confront him about
Well, she
it.
shouts him back.
Does she?
She does, and she tells him that it's okay this time, but to ask Kirk or McCoy to tell him why it was wrong.
Yeah, she can do it herself.
She could just have told him,
Yeah.
don't touch me.
Yeah, don't touch
You're invading
anyone.
my personal space.
Yeah. After finding out within hours of what my favourite perfume is and giving it to me, it's, you're a freak. Go away. Leave me alone.
Yeah, just don't assume you have the right to invade anybody's private space.
No.
Up on the bridge, you see some stars through the view screen.
We
Possibly
do.
some other spatial phenomena. I'm not entirely clear.
No. And
Spock is scanning something, I think.
yeah. He's up to his scientific nonsense.
Yeah. He finds nothing. They're scanning the whole quadrant. There's nothing. Nothing. You can't be nothing, Spock. It's just empty space.
And turtles. We hear McCoy mention something called Thasians. Is that right?
Yes, they're discussing this is sort of like a myth or a legend about aliens that live on the planet where Charlie was found.
Yeah. And at this point, Kirk invites McCoy to educate Charlie on the challenges of adolescence as part of an overall programme to bring him up to speed with normal life.
Yeah, McCoy's not that keen.
No, he tries to suggest, I think, is it this point or later, maybe both times, that Kirk's the authority figure and he should do it. And I think that in this episode, correct me if I'm wrong, I noticed this relationship between McCoy and Kirk develop. So I'm assuming there's going to be sort of some playful banter back and forth with these two as the episodes progress.
Yeah, I think you'll find that's definitely the case.
Quite enjoyed it.
Kirk takes none of McCoy's nonsense.
No, he reminds them of the realities and the responsibilities of the situation. So yeah, McCoy's got to do it at some
He's been
point.
given this job. I don't think we ever see him do it though.
We don't know.
They then go on to discuss the Thasians some more. So I think the one theory is if they did exist, why would Charlie say they didn't? And then the other side, Spock says he couldn't have survived on his own. It's logical. There must be something there that helped him.
Okay. And we head over to, I've noted the recreation room. What,
Recreation Room 6 on Deck 3.
is that what it's called?
Well, that's what Rand said, or where she said she was going to meet.
Right, okay. She is there playing cards with the others and Spock is on an instrument. Tell me about this.
It's some kind of Vulcan lyre, I presume.
Lyre?
Yeah,
A harp?
yeah, that sort of thing.
What's a lyre?
It's like a harp.
Okay, but vulcanized.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we see him play? Is this a thing?
I don't think it's every episode.
But not the only episode.
I can't commit to that. I don't want to spoil anything for you.
You can't remember.
Or I can't remember.
Okay.
It certainly doesn't drive the plot that I'm aware of in any of the other episodes.
What happens? He's playing this harp and is joined on vocals by Ahura.
Oh, yeah, I think she's just improvising a song about his seductive devilry.
I like this. So yeah, she's playfully teasing Spock with the lyric, and in fairness, he seems quite amused. He's got a glint in the eye, a smile, and he doesn't take it too personally. So I wasn't expecting that. I thought he'd be more or less understanding of what she was doing.
Yeah, well, they're off duty. They're relaxing, so he's not.
Yeah, no, I just meant I thought that Spock wouldn't understand. Not that he wouldn't be unhappy, but he just wouldn't get it.
Well, he's half human. He can get these things.
Yeah, I keep forgetting this because we're not at this point. We don't know anything about Spock's background.
I mean, you'll come to learn his mother's a human. So
spoiler.
yeah. Anyway, you'll forget that before it comes up again.
Charlie walks in.
Yeah, so Uhura then improvises a verse about him, which I'll tell you more about later.
Yeah, well, before that, he immediately goes over to Rand because he's a little creep.
Well, she's arranged to meet him there.
Yeah, but what he does is he immediately pulls out a deck of cards, and she's clearly watching the performance.
Yeah.
But it's quite nice because she ignores him at this moment.
Yeah, quite right too.
Yeah, tells him to wait.
He doesn't like what Uhura's singing about him.
No, he can't take it very well.
Yeah, I think he feels he's being taunted in some way, so he, I presume, uses his powers to stop both Spock and Uhura. The music comes to an end, and nobody says anything.
This gives him the chance to impress Rand and the rest of them with some of his card tricks, and it seems to delight him. Tell me about these tricks. Any stand out for you?
Well, first of all, he changes the image on the cards to images of Yeoman Rand.
Yep. Now, playing cards with women on it are normally naked.
These ones were not.
No, they weren't.
And I think he does another trick where he makes a card disappear and then it appears down her top.
Yep. I'm just surprised he didn't retrieve it with his lips.
Or any part of himself.
Yeah, fortunately he doesn't.
Yeah. People seem to be impressed though by these tricks because they don't understand that it's just not possible. They assume he's doing something, some kind of trickery that they can't figure out.
Yeah, I mean, they think he is performing a magic trick, but he's not. He's using his power, so he's sort of cheating by actually performing real magic.
Yeah, that's not what they came to see.
No. Out in the corridor. Before Charlie appears, Kirk gives the order to someone to make sure that they have some, I think it's synthetic meatloaf, and make sure it looks like turkey as it's Thanksgiving Day on Earth. Is that right?
Yeah, I think originally this episode was intended to go out in November. It didn't.
Okay.
We'll come to that, but yeah, it was meant to be a wee sort of seasonal tie-in, but it dates the episode to a Thursday in November, in whatever year it is, 22 something.
Yeah, so at this point, Charlie appears and asks about hitting women and why it's wrong.
Yeah, we heard a little bit about this at the top of the show. I don't understand why Charlie's awkward, because I don't understand how he knows to be awkward about this.
Yeah. I think what he does is he tries to explain what he did to Rand, but can't, so gives Kirk a little slap.
Yeah, literally every time this comes up, nobody wants to use even a word that means behind or bum or bottom. There's nothing. I don't know if that's a censors thing, but surely you can say something. This would be something you could say.
Yeah, of course.
But none of them seem like, even Kirk just seems to be like, oh, I can't say that. Oh,
but yeah, but you're right. Yeah, why would Charlie know to be embarrassed about that, not to say something?
Yeah. Maybe because Rand pulled him up on it.
I think so.
He doesn't want to get into bother, but he wants to learn.
Which is something, I suppose.
Yeah. Green shoots.
In any case, I've been amused Kirk does his best to explain, but I'm not sure if Charlie actually gets it, and I think we heard that at the top of the show.
Yeah,
the podcast.
I mean, he's not alone. There's plenty of men, even today, that don't get it.
However, Kirk is saved from further explanation by the intercom.
He is. He is summoned to the bridge because the captain of the Antares wants to speak to him.
So we're up on the bridge. Now, geographically, where is the bridge? Is the bridge up?
Oh. It's either at the top or the bottom of the saucer section. I can never remember.
I'm assuming it'd be at the top.
I think it's at the top.
Yeah, makes sense.
Certainly in the movie version, the Chris Pine one, it was at the top because you saw the camera zoom in.
Mm-hmm. So how many floors does the Enterprise have? Loads. Okay. Technical term that. Loads.
Yep. You can look it up if you really want to see.
Yep. I bet when whoever commissioned the build of it went to the designer. The designer said, okay, how many floors are we having? Loads. Okay, yeah. No problem.
This is the kind of information that, the real sort of canonistas would be able to tell you just on the drop of a hat, but that's not me.
You told me before we started this, the reason that we were going to do this was because you considered yourself to be one of the world's foremost
That's
experts.
not going to work. You can't turn my own line around.
No, you did say that.
I didn't say
that.
Well,
you hinted at it.
No, I didn't. As I said, I liked it.
Said you knew an awful lot about
it's
it.
Not the same as you in Columbo, where you are one of the world's leading experts.
Unofficial.
Unofficially. Well, certainly the leading one on the internet.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, so they go to the bridge and they're up the back of the bridge at the communications station with the Uhura.
They are. However, the signal is poor, the signal from the Antares.
Yes, and it breaks down and Charlie makes a strange comment.
He does, but we should say that we know that it's a warning that's coming through.
Yeah.
What's the comment?
He says that it wasn't very well constructed. Kirk looks a bit puzzled and then asks him if he thinks something happened.
And he denies any knowledge.
He does.
Spock, however, has some bad news.
There's no sign of the Antares apart from debris, which has come from the ship. So there is sign of an Antares. It's in lots of pieces.
They're all dead.
There's nothing there. Spock, look a bit closer. You're meant to be the science guy here. Oh yes, bits of ship. Yes, it is there.
And things get even worse.
Yes, the meatloaf's gone.
And what's replaced it?
Real turkey. That's not worse. That's better. Who wants meatloaf when you can have a real turkey?
Me. I don't like turkey. It's
It
alright.
can get dry if you don't.
It's
cook
just,
it well.
it's not. It's the type of thing we have here. I mean, we don't obviously have Thanksgiving, but yeah, Christmas dinner. Whenever it's on the menu, if there's an alternative, I will have an alternative. I don't mind turkey slices. I like a sandwich and turkey, but
I like it, a bit of bread sauce, roast potatoes. It's all good. Brussels sprouts.
we're going out this year for Christmas, and well, we went out this year for Christmas. By the time this episode comes out,
Did you enjoy it?
that was lovely. Turkey was a bit dry, and I'm having the lamb shank this year. I've decided something different.
Is that rhyming slang? While everyone else is having their dinner.
Let's move on. That's inappropriate for a family podcast, Ian.
Captain's log comes back up again.
Yeah,
Oh no, wait, before that. Before this, Charlie responds to the comment about the turkeys by laughing and running off the bridge.
Yeah, he does.
Like catching a laugh almost.
Mhm.
Which is interesting.
Captain's log.
Kirk brings us all back
Number.
up to speed. 0.4 or something like that.
1535.8.
Oh, it's close.
Yusfa.
Yes.
What's
Hear
that?
about them again. Doesn't matter.
You don't know?
I knew this afternoon, but I've now forgotten.
Okay. Federation of something?
Something of something. Yeah. It's
United.
headquarters. He's informed headquarters about the loss of the Antares.
He has. Back to the recreation room.
Is it the same recreation room?
Don't know how many they have.
The other one was
Loads?
recreation room 6, so
Alright, so they've got loads.
I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
Unless they just called the only one they've got recreation room 6. They make it seem really exciting.
We see Spock claim that Kirk does not have his mind on the game of 3D chess.
Surely all chess is 3D.
Well, yeah.
Unless you're on a computer.
Or a piece of paper.
You wouldn't play chess. But I suppose you could just with the codes and
Or
stuff.
you always, that was male chess, that was a big thing.
Yeah, female chess.
Now, this is something that I was aware of as well from the Big Bang Theory.
They play this game.
They do, yeah. So I assume that it was just, it was a
It's just something that looks futuristic and fancy, and they've invented rules thereafter, I believe. Yeah.
like the brandy. Not futuristic and fancy, but it's something that didn't exist, but now probably will because
Sure.
some nerds invented it.
You've just offended 94% of our listeners.
Really? I
I
thought
think a couple people nerds.
nerd is okay.
No,
Geek, is that okay?
I don't know.
No, nerd is fine. Like, nerd
Is
is
it?
still all that. They've reclaimed it.
Have they?
Some people.
I just, it's the tone when you use it.
All right.
You have to be careful.
Dismissive. Okay. Condescending.
Yes.
Okay. But the thing is, if they're nerds, I'm not scared of them.
Kirk is he seems distracted because of the number of men that went down with the Antares.
Anyway, I'm doing a podcast about Star Trek. That's about as
Exactly.
nerd as you get.
Exactly.
Yeah. Proud.
Join the gang.
Sorry.
Kirk, 20 men lost in the Antares incident, and you can't figure out why it's happened.
Must be a small ship. I mean, if the
Well, they
Enterprise
said it
is
was just a transport ship, didn't they? So
Oh,
it's
I don't
not
know.
a major. It's not a big ship like the Enterprise.
See, I don't know what that means. I mean, yeah, it's a transporter ship.
Well, remember Charlie was amazed at hearing how many folk were on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but I don't know. I wouldn't know that a transporter ship is small. I'd have thought that actually.
You saw
a
the
cargo
image of
ship.
it outside the Enterprise at the start of the episode, although I don't think the original broadcast had a picture of the Antares in it.
No. So 20, yeah, but even 20 is a very small number of people to be on a ship.
That depends how big the ship is. If it's a shuttle pod, it'd be a lot. You'd be like squished.
Anyway, back to this episode. What's going on here?
Spock is not so much concerned about the loss of the Antares as he is about Charlie.
Well, before we get to that, have we discussed what's going on in this 3D chess?
Well, you can. It's not really that important.
Yeah, that's good.
Kirk wins.
Even after Spock had noted that his mind wasn't on it, and he agreed, yeah, my mind's not on it. I'm thinking about the Antares, but I'm still good enough to beat you. I thought this Spock character was very logical and very smart. He was a bit of a brain box, but he's getting beat off a...
Well, as he remarks, Kirk's illogical approach sometimes has its... So he's obviously sticking to a structured opening or whatever it is, and Kirk's subverted it in some way.
Okay.
Charlie arrives. He's obviously been sent for by Kirk.
Yes. What happens when he gets there?
Well, Kirk leaves, essentially, doesn't he? Lets Charlie play Spock at chess. I guess it's part of his educational plan.
That's interaction, isn't it, with other people?
Yeah.
And Spock immediately tries to explain the rules.
Yeah, and you can see straight off that Charlie doesn't have the same level of respect for Spock that he does for Kirk.
No, because he dismisses him and says, let's just go on with this and play. He knows how to play. He's been taught back in back on the planet. So Spock makes a move, Charlie makes a move, and then Spock, I think, is a bit annoyed at the attitude, so tells him immediately that he's made a mistake.
Charlie whines.
He does. No, I've not.
I've not made a mistake. You've made a mistake.
It's not really an argument you can have, because a moment later it's been proven that he has made a mistake.
Strategically, he made an error. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. I wondered if he was going to maybe beat Spock by cheating in some way, but then it didn't happen.
No. And Spock, I like this, he just decides, I'm not having any of this, I'm off.
Yeah.
And he gets up and leaves him to it.
Yeah, he's sitting there having a tantrum in his chair, stomping his feet. Spock's already halfway down the corridor.
And what does Charlie do?
He melts the white chessmen.
Oh.
Racist.
After that, he storms out into the corridor and bumps into Rand and her younger friend, Tina Lawton. I'm sure she'll be a regular on the show.
Yeah, she's just so happens it's a female yeoman that she's with that could have been a male.
Yeah, is she a regular on the show?
No.
Okay.
She's not even a regular actor. I think she has about 2 other things after this.
Rand tries to introduce them, perhaps even set them up. They're of a similar age.
I think part of it is almost trying to wean him off of her.
Yeah.
Give him somebody else's attention.
So Rand knows that he's a bit of a psycho stalker.
Oh yeah, she's just throwing this girl to the wolves. Yeah. It's like, she'll enjoy it. She'll like the attention. Nobody else speaks to her.
But Charlie pays no attention to Tina, and I think Tina takes, quite understandably, isn't best pleased, and she leaves them to it.
It's not even that he's not interested, it's that he's rude about it as well.
So Rand tries to explain why his behaviour was inappropriate, but he goes full-on weirdo creep here.
That was rude and completely uncalled for.
But I don't need her. I want to talk to you.
But that's no excuse. You better learn that right now. You have to live with people, Charlie. You're not alone anymore.
But she's not as... She doesn't... She's not the same. Not like you. She's just a girl. You smell like a girl. All the other girls on the ship, they look just like Tina. You're the only one who looks like you. You can understand, can't you? You know about being with somebody, wanting to be. If I had the whole universe, I'd give it to you. I see why. I feel like I'm hungry. All over. Hungry. Do you know how that feels?
Okay, couple of things. I don't know about hungry, but Charlie is certainly very thirsty. And what do girls smell like?
I think that's one of those questions that's rhetorical.
Okay.
The music there, a little bit like the Jaws theme almost.
He's certainly a predator.
Rand looked a bit perturbed.
Yeah. But it leads to a question an expert like yourself should be able to answer. So they're up in this mission for 5 years.
Yeah.
How do they satisfy their animal instinct?
There's coupling going on. I wouldn't be surprised.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just need to be careful about it.
Do we know about it? I mean, are there couples who live together as a couple?
No, it's not a family ship. Everyone's working. So it'd be the same as you would find on like a ship here.
Sure, but if you're up for 5 years, you may get into a relationship, and then are there rooms where people live together?
I'm not aware of any
Quarters.
on this ship. Certainly when you get to Next Generation, there are families on board that ship. But it was more of a strictly business sort of situation here. But I'm sure they all had their own leisure time.
Back to the bridge. Rand, of course, immediately tells Kirk about the creepy little Charlie. And, I mean, Kirk's amused.
Yeah, I think he's a wee bit protective of Charlie here. I'm not sure if he sees himself in Charlie, but he certainly sees a standard sort of, even a slightly warped version of a standard 17-year-old boy.
Yeah, I think he blames it on his hormones, essentially. But she insists that something needs to be said before she has to hurt him. I think he could do with a little hurting, to be fair.
That's exactly how he should learn that lesson, like everybody else.
I mean, physical hurting.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
That's a bit mean.
Not really. A knee to the old groin area would not be inappropriate the way he's acting.
Kirk does say that he will deal with it here.
Yeah, so we're now in I think it's his office. Kirk's,
No, I think it's the captain's quarters.
Is it?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Yeah.
I'm not 100%.
I mean, does he have so he's got the bridge where he actually works, but does he have an office area for admin?
Well, we'll find out.
You don't know?
I know that Picard has a ready room. I don't know if Kirk had a ready room. I don't think he did. But they've got their breakout areas, and they've certainly got their meeting rooms as well.
Anyway, Charlie has been summoned there and is first questioned about the chess pieces, to which he again denies any knowledge. But Kirk is more interested in discussing his behaviour and feelings towards Rand.
Yeah, but Charlie's not sure where he's coming from here, I don't think. He doesn't think that Kirk understands his position.
It's nice to see Kirk. He's trying to deliver the sort of father-son chat, trying to create a bit of a bond.
Yeah,
it's a nice
he's
side of
probably
it.
also thinking, how did I get involved in this?
Yeah, but he's the captain.
Yeah, that's true. He took on the passenger. He does try to blend some advice and some instruction, but Charlie's not taking it on board.
No, he tells him that, essentially, some good advice. Play it cool, go slowly, be gentle. It's not just all about you. There's two people involved in a potential relationship, and you have to take on board their thoughts and their feelings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You can't get your own way all the time.
No, good advice.
He says to him quite literally, it's no fun facing that, but it's the way things are.
But as you say, Charlie doesn't understand, and he insists that I think that Rand is the one for him. And at this point, Kirk has to be firmer and say, no, Rand is not for you. There's a whole host of reasons. One being the age difference, I think. I suppose another that she's there on. She's working.
Yeah, she's working, and he's a visitor who's here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
at the most, maybe less.
But he doesn't understand, does he?
It's not getting through to him at all. Uhura comes on the communications device saying they're about to adjust course, and Kirk had asked her to let him know. But he's happy for Spock to handle it right now. He
is. Now, I think to try and lift Charlie's spirits, perhaps even give him a little bit more confidence, he takes him to the gym.
Yeah, there's some interesting gymnastics going on as we arrive at the gym.
Yeah, it's the funniest scene in the episode for me.
I did enjoy the women that just came through in procession.
Yeah, they're sort of cartwheeling around, and in the back there are a couple of guys fighting with the TV Gladiator style earbud.
This is what you do at the gym.
Oh, all the time, yeah. You can't go anywhere without having an earbud fight.
Well, the women cartwheel around you.
Yeah. And Kirk is in his tight cycling shorts or cycling trousers.
Yes, I don't think he was particularly fond of these.
No, you wouldn't be. Bare-chested. Now, this scene reminded me of a Family Guy cutaway. We've got an old-time tough guy. You've got Kirk sucking in his gut and trying to look macho. You can tell, I mean, by today's standards, certainly, he's not really got the physique that you would... the
definition.
Yeah, an action man tough guy would have, but hey.
I'm not entirely clear what the utility of the things he's trying to teach Charlie are either. He just falls over and he's back.
Well, he's teaching him how to fall.
He doesn't say he's going to teach him how to fall, you just see him falling over.
No, he does say that. He tells him that you have to learn to...
later on he says to him, you need to learn to fall before you can fight.
Yeah.
But maybe he said something before we see it, I guess.
Perhaps.
Charlie thinks it's silly, which is what I would also think.
Yeah. If William Shatner wanted to get into a pair of tight lycra trousers and throw me
Fall
around...
over in front of me.
Yeah.
I tell you what, it reminded me of my cat. Like every time you walk up to it, it just lies on its back in front of you. That was what Kirk really reminded me of here.
I'm assuming your cat wants his belly tickled or something.
No, it's a trust thing. It shows it trusts you not to tickle its belly.
All right. Okay.
But I always do.
Yeah. Sucker.
Yeah. Pulled it again. Anyway, Charlie reluctantly gets involved and he tries a couple of these falls, but there's a crew member there who's not very charitable about it.
Yeah, now, I can understand both sides here. Firstly, yeah, they hold each other's shoulders, and there's a pathetic attempt by Charlie to try and sweep Kirk's legs. And it is pathetic. But then you have this other crewman who was in the gym. He's watching on, and yeah, he's laughing out loud.
It's a bit rude.
It's a bit rude.
So these folk who go to the gym all the time and then someone shows up for the first time and they just mock them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not on at all.
No.
But like I say, I can understand because Charlie is an oddball and he is pathetic.
To be fair to Charlie, he tries to do it in good faith. He's not using his powers on Kirk. He's not making him trip himself up or anything. He's trying to do the task that's been assigned to him.
So this guy laughs, and Charlie, I mean, he's got a touch of the Hulk about him, hasn't he?
Yeah,
not physically, but...
Yeah, instant rage as soon as something displeases him.
What did he do?
He disappears him.
So you're thinking at first that it must be dead?
Yeah, or maybe moved somewhere, maybe put him out into outer space or something.
In which case he'd be dead.
Yeah.
I'll just move you outside.
Yeah, just outside this window.
Yeah, it's only a few feet.
Bye.
Can't breathe.
Kirk immediately recognises now that Charlie is a danger. Not just to him, but to the whole ship.
Yeah, so he calls for 2 security crewmen to come and confine Charlie to quarters.
This is something that I've noticed, actually. I'll interrupt very briefly. We'll see it again later. It must be very quick to get from anywhere on the ship to wherever the action is.
Well, surely they must have internal transportation, like a transport. No,
they
why
don't.
not?
It's, well, spot-to-spot transports, that doesn't come in until much, much later.
All right.
The next series.
Okay, but maybe they have an awful lot of these security around, so there's always someone.
Secret passages.
Yeah.
We'll see later with Kirk and Spock, they get from their bridge to Yeoman Rand's office in about 4 seconds.
Yeah. Fearing that the security chaps will hurt him, Charlie does his eye thing again, his eye rolling, and makes their phasers disappear.
Not just their phasers. All the phasers on the ship, which we hear about shortly.
We do. But not right now.
Yeah, right now, pretty much. Uhura comes on and tells Kirk.
Yeah, a little bit later.
Seconds later.
This is something I don't know again if it becomes a trope, but for the first time in the episode, we get this weird lighting where Kirk's eye, the rest of Kirk's face is in shadow apart from his eyes. So there's a band or a strip across his face.
Director's choice.
Yeah. As he commands Charlie to go to his quarters and doesn't back down even with the threat and the implied threat, the knowledge of what Charlie could do to him. So there's a short standoff that Kirk eventually wins.
Yeah. Charlie asks or insists that he won't allow them to hurt him. So he obviously has some kind of trepidation or concern about that happening.
Yeah, so if we understand that he has been alone, fending for himself from the age of 3, why would he have a fear of I suppose, abuse?
Well, I suppose he maybe feels that he's making himself vulnerable by not using his powers. So he's just a boy and they're adults and they're physically capable. So he must not be invulnerable. His powers must not extend to the point where he can't be hurt.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, we find out that all phasers on board have disappeared. That's
I think
concerning.
I said that.
Did you?
Yeah, just a minute ago.
All right, okay.
I was ahead of myself.
You were ahead of us.
It's very important. Charlie wasn't there when they got that message.
A quick exterior shot of the Enterprise, where I noted the number or the registration, NCC 1701.
Yep.
Tell me about, is that just
That's its registration, very famously.
Is it?
Yep.
Always that.
Yep.
We are in the briefing room, where Spock confirms to Kirk that, is it Thesians? Is that what they're called again?
Yeah.
Yeah. They have been recorded as being able to make objects invisible or transmute them.
This doesn't really fit in with him saying that they're also just a legend.
Well, that is the legend.
Okay, fair enough. But they do confirm that McCoy's tests show Charlie must be human because his development mirrors developments that happened on Earth subsequent to him reaching the planet.
However, they do worry about what a stroppy teenager with these powers could do. And Spock, I think he says that he probably did destroy the Antares.
He does. I think he's been suggesting that for some time now.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that Spock and McCoy's feelings here are that everyone else should just back off and let Kirk handle this because we're not getting ourselves disappeared.
Yeah. I think, again, we see Kirk trying to defend Charlie. He's just a boy. He doesn't understand what life is. I mean, not really. You can get away with saying that he doesn't understand relationships.
Yeah.
But he's 17 and he should understand that he can't kill 20 people.
Oh, he's never known any other people.
I've not known any Hawaiians before, but you can't kill them.
He's not met any people at all until this last couple of weeks. He grew up by himself from the age of 3.
But he's been watching all these tapes.
So he wouldn't have any value on human life. He wouldn't know what it's worth.
What about these tapes he's been watching?
Yeah. They might have information about that, who knows.
Yeah.
Anyway, Charlie's been summoned, obviously, to this meeting room, and he comes in.
Well, before that, I think they agree that they can't take him to Colony 5. He would cause havoc.
Yes, in a sort of unrestricted setting.
And I think they decide, or Kirk suggests, they need to treat him with respect, a little bit of dignity. That might help to change his character.
Wishful thinking.
And, as you say, yeah, at this point, a smirking and more confident Charlie appears. He's asked by Kirk flat out if he was responsible for the destruction.
He ultimately admits it. He says there was a panel that was loose and he just made it disappear. That it would have blown up eventually. Anyway.
Well, I suppose that's okay, isn't it?
He also makes, he makes it clear why he did it.
They weren't nice to him.
Yes, and now they're not being not nice anymore.
Yeah. And he coldly states that he doesn't know what will happen to the crew of the Enterprise and walks off, leaving Spock to claim again that they're in the hands of an adolescent.
He's not happy with this.
He's not, no. A little bit later, still on the bridge, Kirk asks for communication with the governor of Colony 5. So do you know about the structure? Is the governor either?
No.
No, okay.
It's just, obviously, he's in charge.
Yep. Does he have a cabinet?
Probably.
Okay.
7 people.
Sure. But there's a problem.
Is there?
Mm-hmm. Uhura gets a bad electric shock when trying to set this communication up.
Yeah, it kind of makes her console explode a little bit.
And then some other random crewmen tell Kirk that they can't change the course of the ship.
Did you notice Uhura saying that she just checked the wiring at the start of her shift?
Yeah, well, I'm sure she does that all the time. Liar. You never did.
It's
did
on her
you?
checklist.
Yeah, it's not.
She hasn't checked the wiring, she's lying, isn't she?
Of course she is, yeah. And at this point, Charlie comes back in and things get a little bit silly.
Captain! I can't feed any course coordinates into the panel, sir. It rejects the course change. Helm doesn't respond either, sir.
Mr. Spock, you getting any readings on your instruments?
Yes, sir. There's a tiger burning bright in the forest of the night.
Spock.
I'm trying to Saturn rings around my head down a road that's Martian red.
You're trying to change course, Captain. You can't do that. I want to get to Colony 5 as soon as we can.
Release the transmitter.
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
What's going on here? Spock calls me to the bridge and then goes into some kind of poetry.
See to her, Doctor.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary.
Very nice, Mr. Ears. Oh, I can make him do anything. Whirl around, laugh, anything.
That's enough, Charlie.
Oh, don't you think he's funny? I think he's funny.
Leave my crew alone.
So Charlie does back down, but once he's gone, Spock notes that won't happen forever.
Out in the corridor, Charlie is now on the rampage. And unfortunately for Tina, he meets her there.
Yeah, she's quite sympathetic, despite the fact he was really rude to her before, and asks what's wrong.
How does he answer her?
He turns her into an iguana.
How do you know it's an iguana?
Looks like one.
Okay. With his tendencies, I would be extremely concerned if I was Rand.
Yes.
His tendencies and his power to make people do what he wants, yeah.
Yeah, how would you know if you were in control of your own thoughts?
And that's where he heads over, to her quarters, where he walks in, uninvited, to give her a flower.
Yeah, she's only dressed in a robe and she's not really ready for visitors and wouldn't want him there anyway.
No, I think she says don't walk in without, permission in the future, and he, like the abusive husband, says don't ever lock that door.
Yeah, that's a bit creepy, isn't it?
Yeah, again. Yeah, he's there to proclaim his love.
Yeah. She opens a sort of surreptitious channel through to the captain.
Yeah, things look like they're about to get a bit rapey at this point.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's been building to this, but it really does look very sinister.
So this is the bit I talked about before. Kirk and Spock hear over this open channel that she's Rand's under pressure from Charlie, and they run to her quarters and literally seconds later arrive.
Mm-hmm. He's now physically assaulting her. He's putting his hands towards her face and things that, if they didn't arrive there, things were getting nasty.
And even when they do arrive, he just swats them aside.
Yeah, with his psychic ability, breaking Spock's legs in the process.
That's it. But Rand is unhappy about this and slaps him in the face.
Yeah, so he does his eye thing and what happens?
Well, this seems to break her spell over him and he just disappears her.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly how or where, but he disappears her.
Again, he can't accept responsibility. He blames them. They weren't nice. They were nasty to him. Fortunately, he needs both Spock and Kirk to manage the
he
Enterprise.
Needs Kirk, and Kirk needs Spock, so he has to mend Spock's legs.
Yeah, so he doesn't disappear them. He just a little bit of mild torture for Kirk, first of all, to remind him who is in charge. And then, as you say, he mends Spock's broken legs.
We then find Kirk and Spock putting a plan into motion.
What's that plan?
They've rigged up a force field. I think it's at Charlie's quarters, so that once he goes in, he won't be able to get back out.
Yes, so he walks in alone, asks if they will be joining him. They think, haha, sucker, fool, we've got you now. Says no, and the force field is activated.
Yes.
But he easily gets around this.
Yeah, it doesn't hold him back for long. Initially, he's thrown back by the force field, but knowing that it's there, I think, does he make a wall disappear? Or
it just disappears the entire doorway. Have some of that.
Yes. How's your force field now?
And at the same time, I think he freezes both of them so he can have a word.
Yeah, just long enough to let them know that wasn't nice.
But he unfreezes them. Now, in the corridor and really peed off, he turns the first woman he passes into an old woman.
A hideous monster.
Here's the thing. It's obviously played by a real actress.
Yes.
And she's got to be the embodiment of this horrible condition that he's forced upon this young
just
woman.
Her normal face.
Just her body.
That's not one for the ego, is it?
No. And he removes another woman's face entirely.
Yeah, she's not very happy. How does she scream? Where's the sound coming from?
I don't know. It was quite creepy, that.
Coming out her ears, maybe?
Yeah. And I think he also freezes a group of people. We don't see them, but we see their shadow.
That's what the laughing folk, where the woman comes from.
Yeah.
Up on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Charlie is now in charge and is sitting in Kirk's captain's chair.
Kirk's not happy about that.
He's not. Uhura gets a notification of a communication from another ship, but she can't receive it.
No, obviously Charlie's up to something.
He is. And he relocks the course for Colony 5 and then leaves. But I think we can see there a brief glimpse. Something's changed within him.
Yeah, he's a bit less amenable to what might be being asked of him or expected of him.
Mm-hmm. So he's left, and Kirk announces that it is time for him to take Charlie on. I think he realises that if he doesn't, Charlie's just going to run roughshod over the lot of them, get his own way.
McCoy's quite cautious. He urges Kirk not to do anything rash.
Yeah, and Kirk does something rash. Again, I'm assuming this might be a bit of a trope where Kirk's the more cavalier.
Gung-ho.
Gung-ho, yeah. Because he makes a massive assumption here.
Huge.
He thinks that Charlie has overreached himself. He's got too much on. He's trying to control too many people and too many systems on the ship. So if they can effectively distract him with other systems and other things, that his power will be diluted and they'll be able to overthrow him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be convinced with that, bearing in mind that the chap can make you disappear if he feels like it.
I wouldn't be, yeah. It's a bit of a gamble.
It's just so crazy it might work.
Yeah, Charlie comes back. I don't know where he went, but he didn't go for long.
No, and the plan is put into action.
Yes, McCoy turns on all the heating. Spock gets all the lights.
Yeah.
And all the power.
So
every section is activated.
As the rest of them are doing this, we see the shadow lighting again in Kirk's face.
Yes, this shows his determination.
He challenges Charlie into taking him on. He forces his hand and he physically throws him across the room at this point.
He does, and although Charlie's able to inflict pain on Kirk, this in turn makes him relinquish control of the navigation systems.
Mm-hmm. But it is only a brief retaliation, as in doing so, the systems come back on, and the message is eventually received from this other ship.
Yes. It's the Thasians. In the original graphics, it was just a green blob.
What is it now?
It's a shapely green blob.
The graphics were terrible. This
Torpedo colour. But this is the redone version.
is it? Oh, dearie me.
It's not the read it and read it. It's maybe been touched up, but yes. So in the 60s original, it was literally a green light, like a spot of light.
Right.
And it got this sort of shape in the first remaster.
Yeah. Rand, she reappears in her night attire and is a bit confused before the outline of this ship appears on the screen.
Yeah, followed by a similarly floaty green head.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been quite impressive for the time. It reminds me a little bit of Columbo, Make Me a Perfect Murder, where he's in the TV studios playing with the graphics for about 5 minutes.
It made me think of The Wizard of Oz.
It's less impressive than something from 1939.
Still, you got the effect.
Yeah.
The Asian was just condescending to them by showing a human face. He didn't need to.
Okay, so that's not what it looks like?
He says himself, I've taken a form from long ago.
All right, okay, yeah.
I don't think it looks like anything. They've ascended to a higher plane.
Yeah. Anyway, Charlie is terrified and begs the crew not to let them take him. But before a decision is made, the image of this head is seen again, and Charlie pleads with his friends to be allowed to stay with him.
His friends.
That's what he says.
Yeah, I know. But
After all that, it's like, oh, come on, guys, you're my friends. It's like, nah, Charlie. The head, however, has other ideas.
The boy belongs with his own kind.
That will be impossible.
With training, we can teach him to live in our society. If he can be taught not to use his power.
We gave him the power so he could live. He will use it, always. And he would destroy you and your kind, or you would be forced to destroy him to save yourselves.
Is there nothing you can do?
We offer him life, and we will take care of him. Come, Charles.
Oh, please. Don't let them take me. I can't even touch them. Janice. I can't feel. Not like you. They don't love. Please. I want to stay.
Yeah, I think sending Charlie to a place where he can't touch people or things is probably a good idea.
well, it's one argument. I've put my title for this clip there was Kirk barely fights for Charlie.
Yeah.
He didn't put a lot of effort into that one, did he?
I think he thought to himself, yeah, the old Thasians or whoever they are.
It's an easy way out for him, isn't it? He didn't have to make a strong decision because the Thasians could do what they wanted anyway. He couldn't stop them.
Yeah, and they had a point. Yeah, this guy might. And he's also, he's not a likeable chap.
Well, there's that. As the Thasian ship leaves, Uhura notes that Charlie is back on board, and Kirk reassures a sobbing Rand.
Yeah, she was quite upset. You could
I
see
think
that.
Uhura was shaking. I think they were all quite shaken. It was quite a chilling end to the episode, wasn't it?
It was. Now, watching this for the first time and considering when the show was made, these days you can get dark endings and unhappy endings, but I thought look, you'll always get a happy-ish ending.
You'll resolve it, you'll come around or
yeah,
something.
But no, they sent him back. So I appreciated that. That they didn't go for the easy easy ending.
Rehabilitation, yeah, well, it's a challenging denouement.
You mentioned rehabilitation there. That's why that's in terms of the moral of this week's episode. For me, recidivism trumps rehabilitation. Once a wrong'un, there's no point in trying to change them. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, I suppose, you conform with authority. What else? I thought if you're looking for an allegory, what would this be today? Maybe for Charlie standing in for someone with severe mental health issues or someone who's on the autism spectrum, society doesn't have a place for them. And is it possible, or what are the steps that society should take, or at what point do you say, look, no, we can't accommodate this?
Yes,
or should there be a point where we say we can't accommodate this, or should you always?
I see your point, but you're I think you're retrofitting, or are you? I mean, you're retrofitting that, and
yeah, I don't think that was intended by the writer, but I'm just saying that you can maybe see something like that
Yeah.
in the way that they deal with Charlie.
Definitely. But I think if you were doing that, you would perhaps make the character more sympathetic. You don't have any sympathy for him.
Well, I think
by
some
then.
people do have sympathy for Charlie.
Do you?
I think especially younger viewers, from what I've read about this, young people watching this do identify. I think it's quite similar maybe to, you see with like, you've probably not seen it, but Frozen, you've got a girl with powers who doesn't fit in and she gets sent away and she became a cultural icon. It's not quite the same story. She does get rehabilitated, or not rehabilitated, but becomes accepted in society. And it's you see a bit with some of the X-Men stories as well. These mutants who don't fit in with society and they're ostracised, and so I think a lot of people do identify with Charlie as an outsider. Sure,
no, I understand that, and that is a well used character trope or situation where you have an outsider who becomes accepted. Shrek, for example, would be another one. But the difference here is that these other characters are all generally nice. They're nice people who are just different. But whereas in this episode, Charlie is a bit rapey.
But why is he? Because he's not had any kind of proper upbringing or guidance. He doesn't know better. He's operating almost entirely on instinct.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd accept that, yeah.
I suppose, actually, I've noted this down. The overarching question is, to what degree is Charlie responsible for his own actions and his own choices? If you want to give him full responsibility for that, then you can say he's a bit wrong and he's a bad guy. He's villain of the week.
So are you suggesting there's a theological message here where people were considering humans and God?
Well, no, I don't think outside of that. I think it's more about upbringing and about caregiving and about society having to accept people who aren't conforming to its rules, or not accept them, as was the case here.
Yeah,
and that's why it's a sort of a dark ending.
Yeah, sure.
Which is to be commended.
I would agree.
I mean, his arc's not really redemptive, even if you do have sympathy for him.
Well, I suppose that's the thing. I mean, we might be dragging this on a little bit here, but there are people who you do have to say, okay, it's that they're a danger to society. You look at people with severe mental illness who may well be dangerous. Not all of them, obviously, but if there are people who serial killers are mentally ill.
Charlie killed 20 people, so maybe at some point you take a certain action and there's not any coming back from that. No matter how much
society has to say, "I'm sorry, you're a danger to society," and that's what we do.
And he doesn't show any intent to be rehabilitated until he's facing expulsion at the end by these people that have power over him.
Yeah.
So it's only when there's a power imbalance against him that he even hints that he might be concerned about his own behaviour.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Do you have any trivia, any production information for us this week, Ian?
Always reams of it. Star Trek's a gold mine for these things.
Pick out the best. Pick out the top bits.
Yeah, okay. So Charlie X first broadcast in the States on 15th September 1966. Directed by Lawrence Dobkin. Larry Dobkin, I think.
Bit of an actor as well, I think
he was. This was his only outing behind the camera for the show, but he does show up in Star Trek The Next Generation as an actor. He died in 2002 at the age of 83. His other directorial work include episodes of Mike Hammer, The Munsters, The Waltons and Charlie's Angels, and he had recurring acting roles as a judge on both L.A. Law and Melrose Place.
Obviously had a certain gravitas to him.
Must have done. The episode was devised by Gene Roddenberry himself and the teleplay written by Dorothy Fontana. We've got a lot to say about those guys, but we'll come to that, I think, in later episodes rather than talk about them here. It's worth noting, though, that Charlie X is the only episode of Star Trek to feature Roddenberry in an acting role. Did you spot him?
I did. Well, I'm not really sure what he looks like, so no.
He didn't appear on camera, but his was the voice of the chef who contacted the bridge to say that the meatloafs had become turkeys.
Okay.
So that's the only time he appears in Star Trek.
The only time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good trivia.
Fred Steiner was the man who scored the episode. He received an Oscar nomination for his work on the score of The Colour Purple, and he composed, you might like this, the original Perry Mason theme.
Ah, really?
This is the first of his 18 episodes of Star Trek, and he died in 2011 at the age of 88. Robert Walker Jr. Now, we've been waiting for one of these, an episode and a half.
Yeah.
Our first big Columbo connection.
Certainly, I remember Robert Walker Jr. Tell me about him again.
Okay, he played Charlie Evans. For those of you who listened to our Columbo podcast, there is a connection. He appeared, and if you've not watched Columbo, you might find this hard to believe, but he appeared in an episode where Columbo teamed up with a child and a robot to frame him for a murder his father committed.
Good episode, actually. Underrated, I believe.
Mind Over Mayhem.
Yes.
His other work included appearances on The $6 Million Man, Charlie's Angels, Dallas, and 2 episodes of Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah.
And he died not so long ago in 2019 at the age of 79.
I would add to that, probably he's more famous for, or biggest connection, he was the stepson of David O. Selznick, who was a massive producer in the golden age of Hollywood.
Oh, his parents were actors as well.
Yeah, but Selznick was, I mean, he produced Gone with the Wind and lots of other massive movies. He ran, I think, MGM, can't remember. But anyway, yeah, he's a huge producer back in the day.
This seems like as good a time as any to talk about Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Yeoman Rand. She appeared in 8 episodes just of Star Trek, so that's a bit of a spoiler for you, as well as 3 of the feature films. She actually was in a 4th of the feature films, but not as Rand. And then she reprised the role in an episode of Star Trek Voyager in 1996. Outside of Star Trek, she appeared in shows like Gunsmoke, The Outer Limits, Wagon Train, and a very Trek-heavy episode of Diagnosis Murder alongside Gene Roddenberry's wife, Walter Koenig, and I think somebody else as well, maybe George Takei.
I might have seen that episode, can't remember.
She died in 2015 at the age of 85.
No, she had a good life then.
Yeah. Abraham Sofire, he played the disembodied...
Up to this point.
he played the disembodied head of the Thasian in the first of his 2 appearances on Star Trek. He previously appeared in The Naked Jungle, Have Gun Will Travel, Wagon Train, and Gunsmoke. He was born in 1896, and he died at the age of 91 in 1988.
It's always good. And that's the thing with this show, because it was set in the 60s. Anyone who's of a reasonable age has got to be born.
Got a chance of a 19th century birth, yeah. Charles Stewart played Captain Ramert of the Antares. His other credits include appearances in the Batman TV series and the Brady Bunch, and he finally got close to return to space in the 1998 movie Armageddon. He died in 2016, age of 93.
They're all quite healthy, they're not dead, but they all seem to have lived a reasonable life.
Long life.
Yeah.
One that you mentioned during the show, Laura Wood, played the old lady version of the crewman who was advanced in years by Charlie. She returned to appear in a 2nd episode of Star Trek in a more substantial role, and we'll get to her at that point. But she also had credits from 77 Sunset Strip and My 3 Sons. She didn't have her first on-screen role until she was 54, but she died at the age of 80 in 1982, so not quite a 19th century.
Okay, so she was only in her late 60s when this was filmed.
Yeah, 64, mid-60s.
She looks really old. I wonder if they put makeup on her, because she was a very old-looking 64-year-old.
I'm sure she was much better looking in real life. There was a lot of makeup going on generally on the show, wasn't there?
Yeah, her hands looked really, really...
The show was used to sell colour televisions. You need to remember that as part of the time, so they were new. So there's a lot of things done with colour in this show that were experimental, I would say, to a certain extent.
Sure. Okay.
Right, away from the cast and crew, some other general trivia. Couple of ones that we touched on earlier. The uniforms, we'll see those yellow Antares style ones again next week, and I think that'll be the end of them for the short term. We get more standardised as we go forward. Charlie at one point wears a rejected alternative design for Kirk's fatigues, because you can see the command logo on them. And the photos of Yeoman Rand on the playing cards were publicity shots that she took for the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bit of Scottish trivia. We always like a bit of Scottish trivia. The song Uhura sings for Charlie is lifted almost word for word from a Robert Burns song, Charlie My Darling, or Charlie He's My Darling, which was written about Bonnie Prince Charlie.
There we go.
A Jacobite one. And titles in other countries. We started this last week and I liked it, so I'm bringing it back until folk complain. Germans and the Italians changed the focus of the episode slightly with their take on the title. So in Germany they went with Der Fall Charlie, the Charlie game, so it's more about his actions rather than him as an individual. And in Italy, it's called Il Naufrago delle Stelle, the shipwrecked of the stars. So again, his circumstances more than him as an individual. So in Japan, we got a good Japanese title last week. There's another reasonable one this week. I think Seisasusei Karakita Shonen.
Creepy boy.
A boy from the planet Thesis. Your Japanese isn't too bad.
It's all right. Yeah, I can get by.
I'm not sure my pronunciation's up to anything now. So the concern there obviously being for his initial tragedy rather than him being this X factor.
Okay.
Next week. Unless you've got trivia.
I don't have any trivia.
Okay, next week.
Where No Man's
Gone Before.
Gone Before.
It's the second pilot, so the pilot that features Kirk, essentially.
Right.
That's the one that got the show greenlit, and we'll talk about that next week. Until then, we're on social media at Trek Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And what we've not said, and I've not said to you, but you can do it, I think we should throw these up on YouTube as well.
We'll do that. You can probably find those until we get copyright infringement notices.
Yeah.
We'll do our best. And website is StarTrekPodcast.com, where you'll get every episode no matter what. And
we would encourage people to come onto the website, have a bit of a chat.
Give us your memories of the episodes and your own even if you don't agree with what we're saying, if you think we are half-wits or missed a point completely, just come on and talk to us.
Any nerds who want to have a go at me.
Oh, come on. Don't taunt them.
I'm not taunting them. I'm saying that if you get offended by me using the word nerd, even though I'm doing a Star Trek podcast.
I can't go through that many comments.
Come on and call me out and
just give him abuse. Yeah. That's fine. He's Gerry, just to be clear, if you've not listened to us before.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway, I should have said that the other way around. People think I'm lying and you're not, Gerry. Anyway, we'll see folk in 7 days' time.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye-bye.